It's Saturday, March 26, 2022. My name is Kevin Merkel. This is Crypto Connoisseurs. I'm joined by Jason Fernandez as always. Before we get started, I got a little announcement to make, so I'm going to do that. Give you guys a quick intro if this is your first time on the show. Jason's going to do the same, and then off to the news. So just so you know, we are sponsored by BlockLeaders. As you can see right up above my head here, BlockLeaders is an amazing website. You can get caught up on all news, all about not just crypto, but fintech, and all kinds of cool stuff, AI, all the buzzwords. You can find all the news related to those things. Get yourself educated. They are sponsoring and will be a media partner at the Non-Fungible Conference in Lisbon, Portugal. It's coming up on April 4th and 5th. So if you want to discuss anything about NFTs and you want to talk to the great ladies from BlockLeaders, you can not kill two birds with one stone. So that's amazing. So as I said, my name is Kevin Merkel. I am the CEO of a company called CoinMetro based here where I am sitting in Estonia. I'll pass it off to Jason. He's going to do a quick intro as well, and then we're off to the races. Jason.
Hey guys, Jason Fernandez, co-founder of Ad Ludum, which is a launchpad, standard launchpad that you're probably familiar with. Check it out. Let's get started.
Awesome. Let's launch some cool stuff. All right, cool. So number one on my list today, what do we got? Our best friend in crypto, or our worst enemy, depending on what day it is or what he tweets. Elon Musk says Tesla and SpaceX see significant inflation pressure, but confirms he won't sell crypto. So what do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, he's right that there will be likely significant inflation pressure. He's obviously already seeing it now, and I think he's probably makes him think twice probably about his random tweets that send the market spiraling whichever way he feels like at any particular time. So it probably is a change a bit for him to be at the receiving end of those moves as opposed to causing it. But I thought what I thought was really interesting is like MicroStrategy's Michael Saylor and like his quote. So he replied to it saying weaker currencies will collapse and the flight of capital from cash, debt, and value stocks to scarce property like Bitcoin will intensify. So, and that's something obviously you'd expect Michael Saylor to say, which is pretty much exactly what Elon responded to him. But he didn't really say what his thoughts were on that. But just basically said that, owning physical goods like a home or stock in companies you think make good products is probably better. But I think it's interesting because like Tesla really, I mean, Bitcoin, if you think about it, behaved very much like a tech stock, very much like Tesla in terms of like volatility and things. So just think that's interesting.
Look, I don't think anybody's going to escape inflation, right? And I think the general public doesn't understand how inflation works. So they see inflation now and they think it's because of what happened 3 days ago or 5 days ago. But this inflation is from the start of COVID. So what we're seeing now is kind of the initial iceberg of the inflation that we're going to see. Now, sometimes inflation will spike very fast, can be quite like on used cars. Everybody, used cars are up by like 40% or something like that around the world, generally because of the chip shortage, compounded by the fact that people are still buying cars. There's no cars, so supply is dwindling on new cars. Used cars go up in value, all that great stuff. But all these things become a domino effect, and I think we've seen, literally the tip of the iceberg here. I think there's a lot more inflation that's going to come. Unfortunately, with what's going on in Ukraine, you have grain and obviously natural gas, energy, etc. All these things are going to push really hard on inflation. And I think the world, one potential thing that could happen, I think, because of the situation in Ukraine, and I think we've already started to see this, is that somehow the science is going to change, and I think a lot of the COVID-related restrictions are going to be removed, not necessarily because of any real reason, but simply because the combination of a lockdown economy, supply chain issues, and then the inflation that's tied to this current conflict would be, almost a perfect storm. But it's funny that I don't think, Musk in his comment didn't actually mention Bitcoin, but did say he wasn't going to sell his crypto. And you're right, Jason. It definitely acted like a tech stock, and still does because of this kind of, I don't know, this correlation that crypto generally has to equities, which it shouldn't, right? I mean, if you read, if you kind of really think what Bitcoin is, why? But it does, because retail traders see that, I don't know, the NASDAQ or the FTSE or the CAC fell yesterday, and they think, I'm going to sell my crypto. for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why. But yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Elon Musk, it might be. I'm kind of scared of Elon Musk, to be honest. I think he has way too much power.
Right.
Anybody that can make a quick tweet and destroy a market should probably be, a wall
Muzzled a bit.
around him. Yeah, muscled as much as you possibly can. But at the same time, yeah, even he can't escape inflation. So when you're paying, 75 euros for a liter of gas, just remember, so is Elon Musk. Yeah.
For comfort, but okay.
Yeah. Well, he's buying a bunch of coal maybe to power his Tesla. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing, but he's inflation's hitting him just as it is us. All right, number 2 on our list today. Better Business Bureau warns about cryptocurrency. BBB ranks crypto scams as second riskiest. Jason.
Yeah, I mean, so I always think this is hilarious. Like when what do they define as a crypto scam? Is that a scam that involves crypto in any way? Because I mean, half the scams, like that, every scam involves cash in some way. I mean, really, if you think about it, I mean, crypto is just like the means of payment or settlement for whatever the scam is. So it's not really a crypto scam per se. It's another scam. The payment happens to be in crypto because you can't trace it, or you can't easily get it back. Let's put it that way. You can trace where it went, but can't easily get it back. And so I always think that's interesting because they just lump it into this whole crypto scam. It gives tars the whole thing with this air of illegitimacy, which is basically what they've done to cash too. Like there's just at least during demonetization in India, when there was a period where half the whole bunch of currency was removed, there was this overall impression like on television, the media. It's like, well, why do you need cash for anyways? Why do you have all this cash anyways? Like, what's going on? Like, it's just by virtue of you having cash, that means you must be doing something illegal. Because why would you have cash? Like, well, yeah, because people spend money. That's how it works. Like, so so I always think that's a bit funny. But I mean, the one thing, like I have a friend recently who got scammed, and it just like people moving crypto onto these sketchy platforms that say they're going to trade for them and that they're just going to guarantee them a certain return over time. And sometimes, and this is like a hallmark of a scam where you see like 24-hour returns, 48-hour returns. I mean, there's no way that you can promise that. So, if you're a consumer and you see that, like, run. I know a person who, and it's funny because like they'll put their money onto a platform and then they'll they'll see the money for a while. They may even withdraw some, but then when they go to withdraw the rest, they'll find out that they can't. And so the person got in touch with me. He's like, hey, can you help me withdraw from this website? And I checked it out. And I'm like, dude, your crypto is long gone. Like all you were looking at was a bunch of numbers on the screen. Like your crypto is nowhere on this website ever. So I guess be careful of things like that. I would sort of tell people, but I don't know if it's. I mean, like any other industry, you're going to have people trying to exploit it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Better Business Bureau has any idea what they're talking about. But just for the record, I don't carry cash, so I'm not that means technically that means I can't ever be a scam artist apparently because
right.
I don't carry cash. But yeah, it's exactly what you said. So I'm in my head, I'm thinking, back in the caveman days, was there like a guy, I don't know, selling like fake caves for rocks? And like he would make like cave paintings about how you could get a really nice cave for 4 rocks, and then the newspaper came out and said that rocks are scams. I mean, what, like it's the dumbest. There are definitely, I have to think about really so I could describe one. There definitely are crypto scams. Crypto scam would be a pump and dump, where someone only sells an asset because they know as soon as this amount of liquidity is in a pool, they're just going to dump right into it. You can consider that maybe, but even then. It's obviously
that works in the financial markets in general.
Yeah,
that's a financial
exactly. It's not necessarily that the means of payment or investment are the scam. It's still the person actually making the scam. And if there's another means for them to do it, they'll do it for another means. What that tells me is we don't necessarily need more regulation, but we need regulation to be applied where people actually get hurt. And that's one place where people get hurt. Not trying to regulate mining or trying to regulate just the general trading of cryptocurrencies. To be honest, the only people that get hurt trading are those that don't know what they're doing. That's not a scam. I had a woman one time. I was on a radio show, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago. It was in Mexico, And we were talking about crypto, and she said, I think it's all a scam, just like the stock market. I said, oh, please explain. And she said, oh, back in the 80s, I bought a bunch of stock for like, $100,000. And then 15 years later, it was worth less money. I said, that doesn't make the equities markets a scam. That makes you an ill-informed investor, right? I mean, how does that? Yeah, how does that make it a scam?
Popularity contest? Sorry, you can't.
Yeah. I didn't get invited back. So she didn't like me, but yeah, people have this perception like somehow people need something to blame, and apparently
Right.
the Better Business Bureau, because the Better Business Bureau gets complaints about scams, right? So they're probably tired, right? And everybody that calls up goes, somebody's Bitcoin scammed me, and then some guy at the Better Business Bureau goes, Bitcoin, this is a scam. We get like 500 calls a day. Yeah. So yeah, good luck, Better Business Bureau. Those guys are on the way out, man. You don't need a Better Business Bureau when everything's transparent on a blockchain, right? So,
but I'll tell you, I've had some really good experiences with them advocating for me. I've complained to them a bunch of times. They've been really, really, really good at what they do.
That is true.
Shout out to those guys.
In some countries, like they have their own kind of consumer agency that's kind of in the private sector or the public sector.
Well, what I do is I find the U.S. branch, and then I complain to the Better Business Bureau. They usually, even if it's international, they'll take care of it. Believe it or not, I've had that happen.
Okay, cool. Well, then that's exactly it. They get everybody calling them that they're being scammed, and obviously, they hear crypto a lot. I imagine. Yeah. Anyway, well, okay. So now I thank you, Better Business Bureau, but do some more research, please, before you post your next news article. Number 3 on our list: artists and activists turn to NFT sales to support the Ukrainian people. So yeah, we've seen Bitcoin, we've seen crypto in general, and now we see NFTs. So what do you think, Jason? NFTs is a form of fundraising.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago, but, this seems to be one of the ideal sort of use cases for NFTs and crypto in the first place. We know when COVID was really hitting India hard, you had a whole bunch of people, in the crypto space that were donating actual tokens. And, believe it or not, by the way, a lot of that actually ended up getting returned because of regulation on the Indian side. But yeah, I mean, it's one. The thing about NFTs and crypto is it allows people to get money wherever it needs to be, fairly quickly and from around the world. And like when you have this like groundswell of support for a particular country, the underdog story of Ukraine fighting this much larger army, it sort of lends itself really well, even just from a publicity perspective for NFTs. So Ukraine DAO apparently for crowdfunded 2,100 at worth over 6 million. And by the way, I believe there's one platform that actually sent more NFTs. Sent more funds than some entire countries did. So I can't remember which platform. I think it was OpenSea or one of these NFT platforms, or something. But they actually sent more money than entire countries have sent Ukraine. So it's certainly a force to be reckoned with. I'm curious when it's going to move from being like more helping people in need to supporting, like one of our stories is coming up with paying for mercenaries to be more offensive as opposed to like defensive.
Yeah. We talked about
when that's going to happen.
Yeah, we talked about that. I think it's probably already happened, to be honest. We just haven't heard a news story about it. But I think it's unique. It's kind of unique because to me this is an evolution of the ICO. So obviously when ICOs came out, people found ways to send, to fund projects that they were interested in. And when it happened at first, there was no regulation, no rules. And, I need to raise some money. Let me put an ETH address on a Wix website. And, here's 700, bajillion ETH. And that's pretty much how ICOs work. And now you have, obviously hopefully for much better causes than somebody buying a bunch of Lambos back in 2016 or 17.
Yeah.
But now you have, they need to raise money. There's obviously a lot of red tape. If they were to raise money, even through, a really nice charitable foundation, it would take weeks to get them that money. Because the money would have to go through the normal financial ecosystem. There's probably then paperwork. It has to be vetted. The money then probably gets dispersed to multiple accounts for multiple different things. And then obviously the banking system might not work in the country anymore if there's no telecommunications or whatever. And then, boom, they don't get the money when they need it. And here, they're able to gain access to the money almost immediately. So it's almost, to me, it's kind of an extension of the
also admin fees,
I mean,
Like,
yeah.
like otherwise, there's some charities that like 98% of the money goes to run the charity.
Yeah, exactly. And the managing director of the charity has makes a couple million a year. Yeah, exactly. So, which is fine. You're doing a job. People should be paid for working. But still, the whole charity ecosystem is at best not streamlined.
Right.
And yeah, this is just, and the same thing with fundraising, right? Fundraising is not streamlined, but ICO has made it very easy. You go right to the investor. There's no middleman. There's no distribution. There's none of this stuff. You don't lose 7, 12, 15% of the money, going through all these different pipes to get to where it needs to go. So that's really cool. Yeah, I was just reading some notes here. So Bored Ape Yacht Club sent 1 million ETH. A couple NFTs made by a few individuals. Somebody burning the Russian passport. I hope she had another passport before she burned the Russian.
Sure, she did. Sure, she did.
Yeah. I hope so. I hope it wasn't a golden visa passport that they're going to take away from her right afterward, and then she's going to be stateless. I don't know. Maybe being stateless right now might even be better than carrying a Russian passport.
I don't think you own the passport anyways. I think the passport is technically the property of the government. Anyways.
Property of the government. Yeah. Just like you don't own money either. Yeah. Unless it's Bitcoin, and then you can actually say you own it, I guess. Cool. All right, let's move on. Number 4. Stripe. Anybody knows Stripe is? Stripe is a massive kind of credit card processor run by. Stripe is what's his name from Twitter, right? Jack Dorsey. Is it Stripe? No, that's not Stripe. That's
the other one. Square.
Yeah. Anyway, Stripe brings back crypto support after 4 years. Says crypto is going mainstream. Little late to the party, but what do you think, Jason?
Yeah. No, listen. I think this is great. It's almost sweeter when they initially had crypto that stopped it because they felt that it was this thing that were going to take off, and then now they're essentially eating their words and kind of going all in, which I think is it really shows you kind of how far Bitcoin adoption has come in such a short period of time, right? Like I remember there was a period where Microsoft, I don't know if this is still happening, but Microsoft was accepting Bitcoin. And the more you gain this widespread institutional acceptance, the more the scarcer Bitcoin gets, and that's why you have these massive jumps from 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. It's because huge institutions will, once they start accepting Bitcoin, now there's an increased use case for it. And I think Stripe is one of those guys that they're not going to just dip their toe in it. From what I understand, they're fully developing payment systems, and they're going all in. And that arguably, given the size of Stripe and how dominant they are in the payments industry, they're second only. Well, I'm not even sure they're second, but I know that they're close to PayPal in terms of their size. And we already know PayPal has started accepting crypto and Bitcoin at least. So that really tells you something about how everything's moving.
Yeah, and I think it's important that I don't see, at least in my notes, that they ever reference just Bitcoin. So I think in the end, for me, personally, I don't think we really have a cryptocurrency yet. To me, they're much more dynamic than currencies. In fact, from a tax perspective, I wish they were called currencies, because then we wouldn't have to pay capital gains. But that's one of the reasons why they're not called currencies in most countries, because as soon as you do that, how can you charge a capital gain on a currency, right? Currencies fluctuate. That's it. Nobody pays, oh, here's your salary, $1,000, sir. But by the way, the dollar gained 6% on the euro this week, so we're going to go ahead and take 2% back from your salary. No, that doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So that's why most countries don't classify them as currencies. But to me, we haven't really reached that point yet where I think there is. You can talk about obviously stable coins as currencies, but true tokens or coins, I don't really know one to me that's currency yet. But I think the future, and I think this is what Stripe is saying. Is why they didn't necessarily say Bitcoin. They have a quote here that says, "To better support our customers and continue to grow the GDP of the internet, we are working to give crypto businesses access to today's global financial infrastructure." So one, I think that means Stripe is going to accept more crypto merchants like exchanges, which is cool. Two, I think what they're probably thinking in their heads is you have one wallet, and inside that wallet you have securities, commodities, currencies, all these things. So you get some Amazon tokens, I don't know, from your Prime membership, and you can go to the store across the street and swap them for whatever, cash immediately, or swap them for the token of that. Kind of like how you can take American Express points and swap them between airlines and things like that. But you can do it in real time from your phone. I think that's where they're headed. Either they're headed there, or someone else is going to do it first. But that I think is where the world is headed. You just have one kind of one point of contact for all these different assets that you can easily swap them for whatever you need.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at like XREX is a great example.
Yeah.
XREX out of Taiwan, they have like a single wallet where they actually have actual USD, INR, and various different, and then actual cryptocurrencies. You know, like stable coins. Some which are stable, some of them which are cryptocurrencies, and it's all sitting in like one wallet, which sort of makes sense if you think about it. Like that's where you'd want to have your assets.
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense just from I mean, if you think about what crypto is doing, what it's good for, how the system actually works, why wouldn't it head in that direction? Why would you create all these silos? Like what we're trying to do is get away from how traditional finance, there's mistakes traditional finance has made. One of those mistakes is silos, right? Traditional finance has a lot of silos. Once you're in that silo, it's hard to get out. So, crypto can help solve that. And there's obviously we still need a bit of interoperability, but that's come, we got bridges, all these things are happening behind the scenes of a lot of project. So number 5, this one's interesting because I just came back from here, literally 12 hours, well, less than that now, 8 hours ago, 6 hours ago, something like that. Dubai approves first law to regulate digital assets, establishes regulator to oversee crypto sector. So what do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Dubai for a long time has been on the forefront of, well, at least over the last few months, been on the forefront of like crypto adoption. Most of the people that I know in crypto are already living in Dubai, and probably for good reason. Like on one level you have like the networking, but I think there's also like a strong government backing for for getting crypto enabled. I mean, I know that when AIBC first came to Dubai, they were actually sponsored by or by the Dubai government, and I believe they were partners. So I guess that tells you a little something. And they even have like the Dubai Future Foundation, which I'm actually part of. They have a whole they do studies about blockchain and cryptocurrency and how to implement it in Dubai, and they're actively looking into sort of like how to make it more crypto friendly, which is almost like sort of the antithesis of what some other countries are doing, where they're looking into it and they're like, how do we stop this? Like, how do we stop this trade? But yeah. Dubai is going with it, which makes sense because it's a very cosmopolitan city. It's it's international. It sort of makes sense too.
Yeah. They've definitely been trying to establish themselves as a financial hub for some time. I think everybody in the Emirates and Middle East in general knows that, this saying that data is the new oil has been around for 25 years. But now, if the topic comes up, it comes up in every conversation. And so, to be honest, on the world stage, Dubai, really up until about 2 or 3 years ago, I can't say was the most, it didn't have the same level of respect from the rest of the world, the other financial centers, the other, but in the last 2 years, there's been a lot of changes in Dubai, both from a political standpoint to just obviously catalysts that have happened. They probably are, if not the number one, they got to be a very close number 2 in terms of how they handled COVID. They're probably number 1, but again, if they're not, they're number 2. But they did a fantastic job at COVID, comparatively speaking, to pretty much everyone else in the world. So, yeah, I think they've gained a lot of respect. And yeah, I was just in Dubai. I was there for a week. I was at AIBC actually. And post to that, I just, Dubai's kind of like, I've mentioned before, like Estonia is like 1 degree of separation. So you meet one person, if you tell them, I'd like to meet the prime minister, they go, oh, that's my cousin's neighbor, and that's it. Like you're kind of meeting the prime minister. And Dubai is the same way, except in Dubai, it happens in minutes. It's not like tomorrow they'll meet you, the day after. They go, oh, we're going to go for a coffee and see them now. And literally, I went from meeting a couple friends of mine that I met that I literally met last year in Dubai, to sitting down with the CEO of NASDAQ, to sitting down with the committee that is currently trying to put together the VARA, which is the Virtual Asset Regulatory Authority. So, wow. It's essentially an MVP. They don't want to say sandbox. They specifically told me we don't want to call it a sandbox. Yeah. Because it's a limited. And then they basically defined a sandbox, but whatever.
Sandbox, right? Yeah.
It's a limited, regulatory framework that'll allow the companies to do business in Dubai only with high net worths initially, so that we can test the waters in all these different crypto sectors. And so, yeah, I'm signing an MOU early next week. We're going to be part of it as well.
Oh yeah. Wow.
I think it's Dubai has something that many places in the world. It's kind of like the new world Switzerland. Switzerland isn't even Switzerland anymore, right? Switzerland is no longer neutral. They're not really the place where privacy around banking exists anymore. And Dubai, I think, is trying to take a piece out of that, try to take a chunk of that, become kind of this hub, a new hub for not only finance, but for tech. And they are willing to spend the money. They're willing to move fast. And there's not many places in the world. Estonia is small and can move fast, but they're still part of the EU. So if they do something that the ECB doesn't like or whatever, then, they get a phone call or I don't know, a letter. Probably get like a nasty letter,
Well, I mean, they just recently announce Estonia that they were tightening up regulations for cryptocurrency exchanges. So
yeah, it very quickly that's been known for some time. We were expecting a draft in March, and then we were expecting kind of it to go back to Parliament, and then maybe by June, more or less, kind of be written into law, and then by the end of the year implemented. Well, because of what happens in Ukraine and with sanctions, Russia, and all this stuff, they actually already passed it about 2 weeks ago, and now it goes into force in June. So it's essentially akin to like an EMI license now, electronic money issuance. Much more capital requirement. It was $10K before. It was
worth $1 million right now.
Yeah, it was 2.5, went to 10. Now it's $250,000. And there's much more emphasis on auditing and policies and adherence to kind of ESMA type regulations. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing for Estonia. MiCA might put a wrinkle in a few things because MiCA obviously will take precedence once MiCA is pushed through law. But anyway, aside from, I would say the Netherlands has a decent framework, but Estonia is going to be right up there with this new framework, if not even better than what the Netherlands has. So yeah, let's move on. We got like 3 minutes and 2 questions to see what we have. Well, not questions, news topics, I should say. Western mercenaries offered 2,000 euros per day to fight for Putin. Not really crypto related, but could be. Maybe he's paying him. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, this goes back to, this is an ideal use case for NFT. Can you imagine like a little military guy NFT where you like literally buy him and now you can like actually trace like where he goes and like wherever he spends at or whatever. I heard somewhere that somebody is on, like, I think last time a couple of times ago we talked about how they're offering like $40,000 in Bitcoin per tank. So I mean, it's almost like the entire. On the flip side of that, which is also really interesting, is that Russia. I heard the other day that Russia initially tried to sell their oil in rubles to EU, like that. That's something that
now they're selling in Bitcoin.
Now they're talking about doing it in Bitcoin. So it's really hilarious. I mean, because you have like people are literally both sides, like one side trying to get money to fight the other side trying to deal with the consequences of the fallout of that fight, are also spending Bitcoin to get out of that. So it's maddening if you think about it, really.
Yeah, I mean the West already offered the same thing to fight in Ukraine. So now Russia's doing the same thing to fight for Russia. I think at the end of the day, I guarantee you, probably 60% of the fighting force right now on both sides are mercenaries. The crazy thing is that, like, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole for like a minute, but the crazy thing, so the West has committed so many crimes that they put people from other countries into Guantanamo Bay for in the last few weeks under this guise of being heroes and being whatever, and it's crazy to see how the West dictates narratives of war. It's because all of us generally are going to hear more of a Western narrative than we are going to hear of a narrative from Russia. Obviously nobody's listening to Russia's narrative unless it is just to say that it's false, but you don't really get the full narrative, right? But I mean,
do you think that there's enough really powerful countries that if there was a lot of opposing viewpoints that we probably have heard about it by now, like if there was?
I mean, I think in war, nobody really is a good guy in war, right? Everybody's a bad guy, and so they all
are victims.
There are victims. Yeah, there absolutely are victims, which is terrible. But in terms of one country fighting another, one tank versus another tank, one tank isn't the good guy, and the other tank isn't the bad guy. They're both bad guys. They both cause destruction. They both cause harm. Whether I guess you could say who initiated could be the bad guy, right? But after that, there's no good in war, right? I mean, it's not like there's no good when people are fighting in the streets, and everything. Right? But they both use the same tactics, except each side will use that as a defense in order to kind of portray the other side as the bad guy, and that's the theater of war. Anyway, don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole because we'll get like a bunch of questions we don't want to answer. We'll get the last one, number 7. We got like 30 seconds. Play to earn is coming to the world's most widely used game. Jason, Minecraft.
Yeah, so I've been waiting for this to happen. So I see a lot of pitches. Like I'll get a lot of companies as potential investments that'll pitch, and it's been, hey, we're making this AAA rated game. We're doing this, and it's always been like, well, what if? So somebody is like, well, we're gonna be like PUBG for with crypto. And it's like, well, what if PUBG themselves decides to come out with a crypto? What if like these existing AAA rated games take the crypto route? Like, I'm not seeing what the huge barrier of entry is. Like, it almost seems to me that it'd be easier to get a really good game studio to integrate crypto rather than getting a really good crypto to integrate a game, because like notoriously games have been hard to develop. You've had issues where like Cyberpunk being one of them, it's in development for a long time, massively hyped, comes out completely buggy, and that happens with games all the time. Like people are unable, like there's like stories galore of people spending 8 years trying to finish a game, and not doing it, and getting fired or something like that. And so I almost think it's simpler to have existing game developers take the crypto route and then kind of see how that goes. But they would need to like make sure that they get people on board that really understand crypto, because like crypto itself is like it's almost a different business. I mean, there's that one part where they're like running their company, but if they want to have a token that's like traded and things like that, then they basically have to either have like a crypto specific part of their company that handles just that, or basically get really good advisors that are already in the crypto space, like you and me, to help them along.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you kind of, I don't know anything about gaming, so I would never try to make a game. But on the other side of that, the guys that know a lot about gaming should never try and create an economy. This all started. Even you can even say that crypto kind of started, or at least some form of kind of it's partially decentralized kind of ecosystem back on, what is it? Free Life? No, what was the name of the game? Second Life. Second Life. Brock Pierce created the Linden dollar way back in the day on Second Life. It still exists. I read something the other way, like something the other day that was like, oh, the first the first metaverse was something. No, and I forget what they mentioned, but it was Second Life. Second Life, literally right now, I think is 21 years old, maybe more, 24 years old, 25. It's definitely the first metaverse. Anyway, so yeah, I just read this. I have a note on my screen. I read it, and I kind of felt like probably how most people feel when they read their first quote about NFTs or Bitcoin, and their eyes glass over, and they're just like, huh? So it says, the first part's pretty easy to understand for me, right? The bridge will open a window for all players to play with NFTs and stake Trillium. Okay, I don't know what Trillium is, to be honest, but stake. The last piece says, and run for planetary election. Mind blown. No idea what that means.
I'm assuming this is for a very specific game. I don't think you can run for planetary elections at this point.
I would hope so, because if it's that easy to run for planetary election, I'm going to buy myself some Trillium. I'll find it. I don't know where it is or what it is, but I'll find it. It's somewhere on the internet for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason, cool. We're 3 minutes over. Thanks a lot. I think we had some good topics, good answers, good discussions. See you guys here. I don't know if we're going to do this next week or in 2 weeks, because we missed a week because of me, because I was traveling. So we'll have to see what we do. But we'll see everybody here at some Saturday, next or the one after. Thank you, everybody. And see you soon. Thanks for, let's see, did we get any questions? We got to thank a few people on the way out.
I just want to shout out to a couple of people, X-Quiz, Matthews, few other folks that are, we have a fake
Coin Metro in the room as well. There's a fake Coin Metro. So shout out to the fake
Coin
Metro.
I thought that was a real Coin Metro. Wow.
No. Send us half a Bitcoin or 3 Bitcoin, and we'll double it back to your wallet.
Do not send Bitcoin to that wallet, guys.
Yeah, do not send Bitcoin to that wallet. Okay, everybody, have a great rest of your weekend. Thanks for being here, and see you guys next Saturday, the one after. I don't know.
All right, guys. Cheers.